It's the one-timers here. Matt on the phone from Minneapolis, Justin here in Lima, Ohio. We talked about Group A, Group B. Let's get down to Group C. A very tough group here because there's so many different styles of play with these countries that are in here. You got Colombia, Greece, Ivory Coast, and Japan. What do you make of this group, Matt?
It is definitely wide open.
Yeah.
Oh my, it's so wide open. I mean, really, looking at it at first glance, you probably would have went to Colombia because they got a lot of talent and they're electric at times on offense. But then, I believe one of their best players, I don't know if it's Falco?
Falco, yeah. He's out, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he had a knee injury and he's not going to be able to make the tournament. So, he's one of the players I'm most familiar with on their team.
Yeah.
That definitely makes it hard. Greece is one of the most disciplined teams. It's really, you got to make sure you break them down. It's one of the hardest things to do, takes patience.
Mm-hmm.
And they're big and strong at the back, and they counter well on set pieces.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast, Drogba's had big-time goals. When I think of Drogba, I think of his goal against Bayern Munich. I believe it was the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
One of the most powerful headers I've seen ever, a little rocket with his head into the goal. And then Japan just, what was that, 0-2, and they made that magical run as co-hosts, and
yeah.
I think they got third place, so, they definitely surprised people. I don't know what to think of it, honestly. I think you go a different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a wide open group. Initially, I really think I had Colombia to win it, but without Falco, it's not to say that one player can really dictate what's going to happen, but I'm starting to look at these other teams, and really, it's one of those senses where with Ivory Coast, they got Drogba, and without Colombia having Falco, I feel like Ivory Coast now has a little bit better of a shot. I think Greece, the thing I love about Greece is, like you said, they're a very disciplined team. They put a lot of numbers behind the ball. They defend fantastically, but it's not like they don't score. They really only have like two guys, but they get all the goals. They find ways to get goals in big time situations. So you're frustrated the whole time. You can't get a goal, and then they counter that one time and put one past you, and now you're down 1-0. The final 5-10 minutes, and you're even more frantic. But it's such a disciplined team that it's very tough to score against Greece. Japan, obviously, you can't sleep on the Japanese. That's a very good team. They are, if I remember correctly, in Asian qualifying, they really were just above everybody. They took care of business very fast, unlike the Socceroos. But it's tough for me to say this. I don't know. You almost want to give that fact that Colombia is on the home continent. You feel like they have to play really well. But then again, you only had, I believe, one team out of the 5 from Africa that actually made it to the knockout phase with Ghana, with having that home continent. So I don't really know if you can buy into the home continent. This is very tough for me. I want to hear what you got first, and then we'll see if I'm toying with things in my mind.
The first game. This Colombia versus Greece is real telling. I think it can be interesting to see. I can see it going two ways. I can see Colombia getting frustrated, having a lot of possession with no really good chances, and end up giving up like a goal off 3 shots from Greece. Or I could also see Greece getting. I can see 11 Greek guys sweating profusely because they're getting passed to death by Colombia, and they can't keep with them. So, I can see it going both ways. I to some extent, I think Colombia, I'm a fan of how Greece plays. I like their discipline, and I like teams that play defense first and decent out. But I think that game is the most telling, and I think Colombia will really open Greece up with their speed and how dynamic they are. So, I think they'll win that game and take control of the group early and start to really. I think one thing that I think is kind of interesting with the World Cup more than most sports, there's no real group play in any of the sports that I'm aware of. So more compared to like an NCAA tournament or or a playoff, teams kind of gain confidence, I think, and really, when they do well in the first game, it really makes those wonders for them. So I think Colombia wins a close game versus Greece, wins the group, and Ivory Coast, I think they have some special players. A lot of guys who I don't know. Guys that the guy from Arsenal.
Yeah, they got Gervinho. Yep, Gervinho.
He's a good player. He would shout out to Nicholas Claypool at Big Arsenal.
Yeah.
Hopefully he listen to the podcast, but he really impressed me at the FA Cup. I remember he was one of their better players, and I mean Drogba. I mean he kind of reminds me of a Ray Lewis type guy. He just wins every 50-50 ball. He does things that nobody else can do. So I think it's going to be Colombia and then Ivory Coast. But it's definitely going to be highly contested, and like you said, a very diverse style of soccer being played in this group.
Yeah. After toying with it, I think I will agree with you on Colombia. I think that, they could probably get past the injury to Falco and still, I obviously do very well. I think it's so tough for me because this Greece and Ivory Coast matchup, I think it go either way. I mean, obviously, I just watched Bosnia and Herzegovina play Ivory Coast. Now, Ivory Coast didn't have Drogba or Gervinho in, and obviously Gervinho is very good on the back line. But that back line of the guys that was in for Ivory Coast, I mean, they just were getting tore up by Checo and the other Bosnian players. They almost seemed kind of not like clueless, but they were just out of position really bad. Now, I don't know if that's the exact lineup, at Gervinho that they're going to play with, but to me, I feel like if they're going to be really confused, especially on those just very few moments that Greece has, I think I might take the Greeks to at least play to the points. I think this is a group that we might see a lot of draws in. Especially obviously because Greece is in it, but I think I'm going to take Colombia. I think I'm going to take Greece. I think especially because in my opinion, I think Colombia and Greece could very well tie that first game, and then it comes down to the next game with Colombia and Ivory Coast. And if Colombia wins that, that's really going to propel them in a good position. Obviously, they'll have in Japan, but I think in that sense, if Greece can beat Japan, they just have to get a draw against Ivory Coast, and that'd be enough. So I'm going to take Colombia and Greece in this one.
Definitely be a fun group. I think if Greece can find goals, I think the Greece style, they really kind of sit back, and if they can score on a few opportunities, they're definitely a dangerous team. It takes a lot of veteran presence to beat, so it should be a fun group, definitely.
Absolutely. So I'm taking Colombia and Greece, and you got Colombia and Ivory Coast. We'll take a look at Group D in just a moment.